Hello, everybody, and welcome to the session of the Faculty and Staff Professional Development Conference on Event Planning 101. I'm Melissa Lamp from the Office of the Provost, and we have Robert Jones here with us today, who's going to talk about myNDSU, which is a cool feature that I think could be a lot more utilized on campus. And Cece Roeder from the IT office is also online, so she'll help with questions online and things. And we started a couple minutes late because the meetings are a little back to back. So I think we'll still have plenty of time for questions. Stop us along the way if you have questions, and just talk a little bit about event planning today. So I'll just first say that the crowd size in the room is huge. We got a lot of people in here. It's packed. You have never seen a room this packed. So the two main resources that we are here to share with you today are the Campus Events Planning Calendar, which is an Outlook calendar, and myNDSU, which is a platform that student activities mostly hosts for events and promotion of events so that students can find events, and also I think so we can find their events. So a lot of you probably are not new to event planning. However, things on campus change regularly. So this is the general flow chart that we developed along with event services of what your basic event is going to look like, so that you have like sort of a, did I check all the boxes? And every event is different, so maybe there's going to be more boxes on your events. But the things to consider are looking at the campus events planning calendar to see what else is going on and pick your date around that. That way you won't have an event that potentially conflicts with another event. And as you might have, if you were here during COVID or wherever you were, if you worked in an institution like this, so many events became virtual that we ended up inviting people to the same audience to different events. And then everyone was like, I don't know what to pick. I can't be in all those rooms at the same time. So because now we've sort of left the COVID era, but we're still using a lot of virtual spaces, we found it harder and harder to know what events were going on campus. So we would develop this calendar, browse the calendar. If you do, then you can see what's already going on campus, so that when you do reserve a space, that you can feel pretty confident that that spot hasn't already been taken up by some event that everyone's going to be at. Sometimes that's okay too. I mean, we do want multiple things happening on campus, but just to have the knowledge of that. So we're going to make a note here that you might need catering, you might need to fill out a facilities use agreement. That's important for making sure your event runs smoothly. Then the next question is, if your audience includes students, I would say you absolutely want to have that on myNDSU. If it's not there, I don't know how you're notifying students, but any event that includes a student audience, I think you want to put it out there. And if you don't include students, I think you can still put it on myNDSU, right, Robert? Yeah, but you definitely want to add more details, at least to the campus events planning calendar. It's a campus event, so that at least your contact information is out there, so people know who to go to ask more questions. And then I would suggest that nothing ever ends here. So if you're having an event, you need to find other ways to also market your event, probably, unless it's very exclusive by invitational, sure. So we just came up with this little flow chart. It's pretty basic, and I'm sure most of you who have worked here a while kind of know about the ways to do what you have to consider when you're planning your event. So I'm going to talk for just a short time about the planning calendar. I just want to give you an idea of why we came up with this. There used to be a campus events calendar that was run by Student Affairs, I believe. And IT had developed it, but they couldn't maintain it. So it was a little wonky, but it kind of did its thing, and then it kind of disappeared as things do. And then we went through COVID, and then we started to realize, as VP assistants, of which, you know, I'm the assistant to the provost, so, and CC's the assistant to Mark Wallman in IT. The VP assistants in general started to notice that We're getting a lot of feedback from the VPs that they are missing events, that they don't know, well, I didn't know that was happening. I should have gone to that. And we realized we didn't have a system to make sure that they were attending both the in-person events that they should and the virtual events. Or at least know about them. If they can't attend, at least they know what's going on campus. So the VP assistants got together and created this calendar with the help from IT to say, like, here's the different options that are available. And this was the best option for what we needed. What we needed was something that the VPs could see what's going on. And as it evolved, we thought, let's open this up to campus because we can't even know all the events that are out there. And we thought it probably would be helpful to other people. So it's been a couple of years now, and that calendar has really grown. I think generally people are using it because there's quite a lot of events on there. And what's helpful to me is that when I look at it, I can see, well, there's students on campus today for this event. Maybe they're K-12 students, but it's still good because when I go out, I might see them and know what they're doing there, can interact a little bit. The provost likes to interact with student groups on campus. So we made it accessible for everyone to be able to view the campus events calendar. It's on our knowledge base. If you Google it, you can find it, and that's linked to it. And then we also, CC and I kind of are in charge right now of giving access rights. So if anyone is a person planning events, we're happy to give that right. We don't want everyone to have it because sometimes that little tiny bit of power, if you don't know what you're doing, might, you could delete an event really easily. Just one click. So, but if anyone who does any event planning, we surely want those people to have access. And now I'm going to turn things over to Robert because he is going to talk about all the things about myNDSU.
All right. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Robert Jones. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Involvement and Leadership down in the Student Activities Office. And one of my primary jobs is as the primary program administrator for myNDSU. myNDSU is it's often referred to as a student engagement platform, but it really isn't a platform, an engagement platform for the whole campus. It can be utilized by faculty, staff, students, departments. It's really open for anybody to if you want to increase engagement within your college department, it's certainly a way to do that. If you're looking to kind of build events and programs and work within your office, that's the whole purpose of it. I know that there has been some misconception in recent times that it's just for students, and that's not true. It is actually open for everybody. So with that being said, I kind of want to take just a brief look at what myNDSU can do for your college or department on campus. So for example, this is an organization that you can allow to manage your roster and your membership. So if you want to make, say, the electrical engineering department wants to have a myNDSU page for a variety of different reasons, they can make that so that it's just members of the faculty and staff of that department. Students don't necessarily have to be a part of it. You can do that, like if you want to include students in there so that they are, maybe you want to do events with your students or some sort of social activity. That's a way to do this. It can also be a way to house information, stored documents. If there are, say, I'll use this one thinking about some of my students. Architecture students have a certain, there's usually a certain expectation of a computer or a type of computer that they require their architecture students. If you want to put that document in there that kind of outlines what is required, you can drop that in there. If you want to create forms or even have elections, you can do that. We've started using the elections resource for myNDSU for doing, say, homecoming elections. But maybe you're doing a staff thing and you just want to see who wants to play in a softball game between electrical engineering and the English department. I don't know. You can do that. I think there's also some social media kind of aspects to this, which can be helpful internally. For example, sharing organizational news. If you have a student who, or a faculty member who just presented a national conference, you can type that up. You can share it not only with the whole campus, so when they log in, if you log into myNDSU, one of the things you'll see is organizational news. You can do that for the whole campus, or you can do it just within that department. So it's a great way to share news and accomplishments from people. It's also a great way you can share pictures. So that's another great way to just kind of promote it. And I know when I'm working with students, I'm encouraging them to post pictures, because as students begin to look at what is happening, remember, there's a social media kind of generation. They're going to look at the pictures. They want to see what's happening. So there's a lot of opportunities. The About page can tell you a little bit more about what's happening. And then I think the most common thing is the events aspect of creating an event. Now, the nice thing about creating an event is you have limiting options. So maybe it is just for, you just want to do an event for members of the organization. You can click it so only people who are on that myNDSU page can see that event. In fact, we have 4 levels that you can do an event for. One is public, and that's everybody can see. You don't have to log on to myNDSU. So I can go and just hit ndsu.myndsu, I think is the website. I got a bookmark, so I forgot. Anybody can see it. We have a faculty staff, or only people who have login credentials can do this, can see it, and then we have them for organization only, and then invite them. So maybe you have a page that has both students and faculty on there, but you want to do an event that is just for faculty. You can click that invite only and identify who you want to invite, and then they can see it. If you are the administrator for your myNDSU page, some of the things that you'll be able to do is actually adjust the rosters. Now, one of the things that we do, because I realize it can be real hard to, if you're managing something that has students on it, to keep track when students graduate, when they not, getting them off. One of the things we actually do is at least once a year, I work with IT, we find out which students are no longer enrolled, and then we delete them from the myNDSU page. You as an administrator are the ones who get to add pictures, set up meetings, create events. You can see if you have like a PeopleSoft member, budget classification. So from that standpoint, and that's a lot of student stuff, but from that standpoint, you can also house information that you want to make sure gets transitioned from one person to the next. Going back to like the documents, the documents are a lot like events. You can identify who's going to see them. So if you only want, say, the administration from that department to see that, you can identify that. Or if you're like, I want everybody to see this, you can do that too. I'm just gonna stop real quick and ask, do you have any questions?
Do a lot of people know about this? Because this is the first time I've heard of it. So, like this,
Does
everyone know about it?
I think students do.
Students do.
Departments aren't heavy users yet.
They're not, so we're trying to, because this actually can also double as another calendar source for you all, particularly in managing, because we can't, like with campus calendar, you can't put everything on here. Just to give you an idea, last year myNDSU had over 1,700 different events posted on it. That's not something that's going to fit on a calendar, but if you want to put like a regular staff meeting, you can put that on there. The other thing about this is you can use it for RSVP to get accurate counts. I'm still working with students to get them to do that, but
I think it will also send reminders out if you want.
it will send reminders. It will allow you, when you set up an event, to actually do pre-questions. So when somebody RSVPs, so examples, maybe you're having an end of the year banquet and you want to find out if there's any dietary restrictions. You can put that as a question. So when somebody hits RSVP, they get that question, they can respond. You can even do post-event evaluations. So once, the way it works is you can create the questions, create how you want it done, and then once that time frame once that event ends, it sends an email to whoever had RSVP'd or whoever actually had signed in. Because that's another thing you can do with this, is you can actually track who attends events by swiping ID cards. So you walk in, swipe an ID card. What I typically do, just because it is a little bit easier should I lose connection, is I swipe it and our ID cards will read right into an Excel document. Then you can take those numbers and drop it in. That's getting a little deep. If that's something you're interested in, I certainly am happy to show you how to do it. But it works really well, particularly with student events. What other questions? Yes.
So in my role, I get a lot of just off the wall questions because I think the operator, certainly that's fine. But they'll say like, what is this event going on? And I'll check the Outlook one. But is there an easy way to search per day on myNDSU? Because I know you can do categories like.
You can search per day.
Okay.
So when you log into myNDSU in the upper left-hand corner, there's an events button. You can click on that. You can search for the day. Another thing that you can do is at the very top, there's a search bar. If the person knows the event, they can go in, you can go in and type the event name, and it will actually show you the event. So then you can click on it and it'll take you to the page.
Right, little I.
Yes, as long as it's in myNDSU, you can type in live and it should show up. And that's actually what I found a lot easier to do than trying to search through the event. You can, and thank you for bringing this up, you can't filter based on events. So maybe you're wondering, is there I think I saw something about a musical with the theater department. You can go and filter, I think it's theater, and it should pop up. So there's lots of different ways. You can even filter based on, is there free food at this event? So we fill in a lot of blanks, a lot of those areas for students so that they have that opportunity. But yeah, the same can be said for looking for an organization. Somebody's like, hey, I have a question about this. You can go to that search bar that's at the very top and just type it in and say, hey, here's this organization. Every organization has a primary contact number. So for one of what you do is, or one of the roles that maybe as an administrator you become is you might be that primary contact, which means whether someone logs in to myNDSU or not, your name will always be seen. Because you can still access groups, some information of groups based on without having to be logged in. That's one of the things, like with new students, I try to do. You have new members of your team coming in, faculty or staff, and you're like, hey, you want to know a little bit more about us? You haven't got your credentials, here you go. Check out myNDSU.
Maybe a question online here.
Is there a question?
Yeah, we have an online question. It's, are you able to invite people who don't have accounts in myNDSU? I'm thinking about Neo. I send out a calendar invite and people don't always RSVP and or ignore the reminders and forget.
If the event is public, then you probably can have people outside of NDSU who can RSVP. The one thing I would be cautious about that is, obviously we're a state institution, state funded, so being cautious of how that works and the fees and that kind of stuff, but also space, which is another aspect of myNDSU that is nice. So say you're doing an event, and you want to do an RSVP, you're sending it out to a lot of people, but you know you have limited space. You can actually set a number of people who can attend. So if we're doing this space in here, looks like it's 40 is our maximum. I can set 40 as maximum for RSVP.
There's a follow-up response to that. It wouldn't be for outside people, just NDSU employees, staff.
Oh,
Do they automatically get in my NDSU account? Just
yeah, everybody already has my myNDSU account, so that wouldn't be, that wouldn't be an issue. You would, if they work for here and you send it out, then they can RSVP for it. I will also say another aspect of this is that you can message people directly or message whole departments. So rather than doing, 100 emails, and a lot of you probably already have listservs that handle this, but it's an option. Rather than that, you can create a relay that will allow you to, every member of that organization can be sent on, or if you just want to send it to certain people within the organization or certain positions within the organization, you can do it that way too. Now that will show up when it's, and then all goes through Outlook, so you get a relay, which is basically a whole bunch of numbers, letters, and symbols. You drop that in a tube, you put your subject line, send your message, and then send it off. The person receiving it will receive an email from myNDSU, but your message will be that email. So that's also been a really handy thing. I probably send out 1 or 2 of those a semester to students, or not a semester, a week. So I'm that person who knows them. Any other questions? So I'm going to go ahead and put up, because I think we're going to post this in places. So if your department doesn't have a myNDSU account and you want one, even if you just want to, I want to try it, play with it, and see what I can do, you can either scan this QR code or click on that link. It is a Qualtrics form. It's got all the questions that I need to know to build it. I will say, please allow for 2 to 3 business days to create it. At this particular point in time, it may be 3 to 4 business days because it's the beginning of the year and, well, life. We'll just put it that way. Any questions? Yes.
How would you decide whether to use Qualtrics or Microsoft Forms or myNDSU for different things like an event or a form?
I think for me, it really depends on what the purpose is and how easy it is. I'm very comfortable with Qualtrics, so I still use a lot. Well, I inherited this from my predecessor, and I'm not going to mess with something that already works like this. So it really kind of depends on who you're engaging and how well you know the system. With events, this is honestly super easy to do. It is very explanatory. And the nice thing is that there are some kind of behind the scenes people that can help you with events. So for example, if you're doing an event for an entire campus, it's going to come through me to get an approval. If you're doing an event for your department, then whoever the administrator is probably building the event. It's just going to get approved. So when I look at stuff that comes through for like a campus-wide event, I'm looking to make sure you got your reservation in. Because if you have your reservation in, then I'll look and making sure that you have, so if you're using a space outside of the union, do you have a facilities use agreement? If you have all of that stuff, then, things like catering and that kind of stuff is already taken care of and you're good to go. And then I can approve it and then it becomes visible for the campus. So there are some kind of behind the scenes that do assist to make sure that those are, where if you do it, a Qualtrics form, I don't see that. I think with the, if you're looking at doing an election or some sort of thing, and maybe seriously your election is, hey, it's the end of the year, we're doing our end of the year banquet. These are the 3 places we're looking at. Please vote to tell me what you want. Super simple, right there. This you also and I live in myNDSU, so it's easier for me. But if you log in, you're in, and then the next day you're just, you can check it rather than having to log into a whole other platform. Another thing I'll share about this is we actually created a few years ago some tutorial videos that are on the student activities myNDSU page. Just to give you a little bit of caution, They've since updated the page so that it might look a little different, but the verbiage and all of that stuff looks the same. Walks you through step by step of how to create an event, how to upload pictures to the gallery, how do you do a news link, how do you adjust roster, all of that stuff. And then there's me, and I'm happy to help out anyway. So, any other questions?
We'll have that link available too after the conference, or you can certainly email any of us to request it and we'll get you to the right place.
One of the other things that we were talking through this presentation was working with our event services. And so I'm going to bring Megan up. Megan is the director of the Memorial Union to kind of walk through, because she oversees the event services and how event services can help you all.
And she would be a great person to ask additional questions to.
Yes, please do. So my name is Megan Hubbard, and as Robert said, I'm the director for the Memorial Union Operations and Event Services. We also work with the McGovern Alumni Center and Berry Hall, and so can really help you plan events around campus in some of those bigger spaces. I think as I'm going through, and I know you've heard a lot of information, but my tips are just plan early and be flexible and ask questions. So I think sometimes people get like a room or a space really set in their head, but maybe that one is being utilized by somebody else. So if you're asking those questions of like, where can I fit this number of people? Or this is my vision, how can you help? That is exactly why you're here. If you have annual events that are just, we do them every spring and we want to make sure they're on the calendar, we are happy to get those on the calendar for people right away. But maybe you also have a new idea and it's just wanting to talk through what we could do for an event. I think this is where we also partner with those that connect with the students, just communicating, making sure we have everything that's necessary. There's a lot of forms and I apologize for that. So I know that there's a space reservation process. We want to make sure you have your space, that all of our campus partners know about it. So as we think about that facilities use agreement, that helps parking, it helps the police, it helps facilities know what is going on campus so that they can also put their resources towards those events. We also want to make sure you have the right food and beverages. So that's where they're all a little bit different. People coming to events are important. I think word of mouth is that like number one way, but you've learned a lot about also how to advertise those events across campus and just letting people know. And the one thing, I think the biggest thing I can give to people is that there's usually 4 or 5 people that know exactly how an event is supposed to go, right? The planners know exactly how it's supposed to go. Everybody else just always thinks it was a great event. And so, enjoy your event as you were planning it. If there's a few little hiccups or speed bumps, you're probably the only one that notices throughout the day. But that's also why we're here to help, to make those just a little bit smoother. Are there any questions?
How far ahead can we reserve spaces? Like if we know we have an annual event, can we book a room for 3 years?
So we can for certain events. So for like admissions and recruitment things, we can. For other ones, we go usually about that year out. So on Monday, we're going to start looking at spring and summer next year. And so, but if you guys know that you have those events, like we want to know about them too. And so I will share, I'm new to my role. I've been here for about 10 months. I'm getting to know the campus calendar. And so I also have a list of like kind of annual things that I've gone back through our software too. And there's just some people that I'm going to start reaching out to say, are you planning on doing this again? Can we get you in a space before that space starts to book in? But if you know that, and you guys are the experts on what you're wanting to do, submit that early. we can always change the setup from that. It's really just the space that's hard, right? So if you're like, I don't know exactly how many people, but I know it's gonna be around 300 to 350. Maybe we'll rearrange the tables, maybe we'll do something different with the stage. We don't need all of that right away. We can move that. It's easier to move that, you know, not within 3 days of your event, but if you know, like, I'm gonna have Friendsgiving, and we want that in the ballroom, and we want it the Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we just wanna make sure that that's there, so.
I will say from my own experience, so I coordinate the Bison Leader Awards and the Bison Leadership Institute, both are two big events that happen in April. Typically the week after those events, I'm already booking.
Yeah.
For a couple reasons. One, I want to make sure I get the space. Two, I want to make sure, like, particularly like the Bison Leader Awards, that I can get invitations out to Dr. Cook and Provost Bertolini so that they, you know, I'm reaching right out to them and saying, hey, we're having this. And recognizing, I will say that, well, I recognize that both of those individuals and a lot of administration are super busy, but recognizing that if I'm on that calendar, I may also get bumped, and that's okay. But
If you like to just know.
yeah,
The other question.
I would also say, thinking about the flow chart, if you're hosting a big event, one of the first calls I would make is to event services. They're really good at what they do. They know the space that's on campus. They know the catering. They know their event planning is a skill. They are very skillful at it, and I think that they can kind of help navigate you through that process because it can be very exhausting. Let them be a little more exhausting. Especially.
Please, we have a general email address, that ndsU.eventservices@ndsU.edu. That'll connect with everybody on the team. I'm also happy to help directly, but I know that one gets checked all the time during business hours, and so sometimes I'm also running around the campus, and so we want to get back to you as soon as we're able to.
I would vouch for the fact that event services is super wonderful because every time I have a crisis behind the scenes, they have a really nice, Megan's office especially is a really good place to cry. So keep that in mind. So these are some of our resources, and I know that you can't click on these links right now, but we will have them available to you. These are all the things we talked about today. And of course, event services has a lot more on their page as well with all the room information, everything. If you've been there and checked it out, you know, NDSU catering's menus are fantastic, and usually they're willing to work with you as much as they can about specialty needs. And that's it. That's us. If you have any other questions, we're happy to answer them. We're really glad we got to talk to you today about the campus event calendars and myNDSU. And I hope that you will look into using those resources, reach out with questions, and then we can have many successful events in the future. Cece, did you want to add anything to the content here?
It was all done fabulously. So well done. But if I had to add one thing, it would be pointing out the difference between a physical event. If you're going to schedule an event and you're looking for a space, you're going to work with event services, you're going to get a space, it's yours. It's yours for the time that you specified, and you're going to do your event in that space. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody can be there at the same time. In the virtual world, you don't own anything. So that's when it becomes really important to be aware of what else is happening. Because if I'm going to do a virtual training, for example, for something really, well, what I consider meaningful in my department, I want to be sure that I don't pick a time during which something else that is likely to take a lot of, I'm talking mainly about staff here. If there's another event at the same time, be it physical or virtual, that's going to draw a population similar to what you're targeting, you probably want to know that so that you can avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah, virtual spaces, there's so many virtual meetings now, so it is like, I think you can still tell Megan about those things. She probably wants to know.
That would be another thing that we should keep in mind. Yes.
We also have rooms that can help if you have a few people that want to do that together, to connect into Zoom and,
Right, you can have a hybrid meeting as well. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Is that information is out there, Megan, on your website in those resources? Oh, that is awesome.
all of our meeting rooms are set up for Zoom capabilities, so similar like we're doing right now.
Does anyone have any last questions or thoughts they'd like to share? Well, thank you for your time today. We hope that you have enjoyed this session and that you were able to attend some of the other sessions. And think about what other kinds of content that you'd like to see at conferences like this, because the Office of Teaching and Learning is very open to suggestions about content. So if there's things that you're thinking that would be helpful to get a little more knowledge about, reach out to them or to me and I'll tell them, because I think that we need more opportunities like this to get together and talk about different things we have going on and just network. Right? Thank you. Have a good afternoon.